How's it going, guys? Another week with the Futbul Apex podcast here with Elliot. And this week, AC Milan were shocked by Atalanta. Like at the San Siro. Honestly, I know last year they lost 5-0, but I did not expect the league leaders, Milan, to lose 3-0 with Ibra on the field. It just throws away everything that I was thinking. Because at first I was like, Milan, they lost to Juventus.
Yeah.
And Juventus lost to Inter. That means Milan are okay.
Yeah.
But then they lose to Atalanta that everyone's bantering. Didn't Atalanta lose 5-0 to Liverpool?
Yeah.
It's like, Elliot, you follow Serie A more than anyone I know. So was this to be expected? Because I know that you like Atalanta, even though they don't have Papulomas.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's unexpected because it's just this team where Roma, they show up, they score 4 goals in 25 minutes. They play well against the big teams, and then they'll lose 2-2 to Bologna, who is a team that Roma put, I think, 5 past in 45 minutes. So I wouldn't say I was shocked by the result. I thought they were going to get a draw because I thought this is a game Atalanta really shows up for. With Papa Gomez departing, it kind of gives them a little bit more identity. But I wouldn't say I was necessarily surprised, but I don't think I was expecting this. And when I say this, I don't mean the result. I mean how bad Milan looked. I bet that if AC Milan could return Sandro Tonali to Brescia, they would do it. He's been absolutely useless. And the whole idea with signing Vidal instead of Tonali for Inter is actually making Inter look like that they won that deal. Though they were poor, Atalanta was just they were just better from start to finish. I think, but this is the thing with Atalanta. They'll play well today, as they did. Next week they'll lose to a I don't even know who they play, but the next opportunity they have to show that they're for real, they'll drop a game. That's just what they do. It's like the opposite of Roma, where Roma beats everybody except the big teams. Where I brought it up before, 4 points out of possible 21 against the top 6. Really bad. And then Atalanta will play really well against the big teams and then struggle to beat teams like Bologna, who earlier this season they were up 2-0 against them and they ended up throwing it away. So, but AC Milan got a big break because for the 3rd time this season, AC Milan dropped points and Inter Milan couldn't take advantage of it with getting a 0-0 with Udinese.
All Inter need is that 1 week. The problem is that they have the whole league in their hands. Like, even last year, they lost it by 1 point. Do you know what that means? Just win a game that you drew. That's it, and you have the title. I know Juventus fell apart in the last week or so, or 2 weeks of the league, but still, like, there were many opportunities that Inter, they looked like they were gonna win them. Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez.
Yeah.
This season, they've been on fire. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of scared because not only is it anyone but your rivals, but they're doing it in style. Even with the dysfunctional manager.
Yeah.
Imagine what they would do if they were in order.
No, but we got to give credit to Udinese. They were outstanding. They did what they were supposed to do. Were they the better team? Probably not. But Musso, the Udinese keeper, really well. Another good performance from their midfield. The defense didn't make too many errors. It was just like, Inter, beat us if you can. But for Inter, it's like they set up the game as if Inter, if they were going to beat them today, it was going to be because Inter were more talented. They need that moment from Lukaku Martinez, and it never came. And that's the big difference. And Barella's incredible. Everyone was singing his praise, just calling him the best midfielder in the league last week. And then today he doesn't show up in the same way. So there's inconsistent. I would be worried if I was AC Milan, but there's a little inconsistency from Inter. But the fact that you're only 1 point behind and they had 3 opportunities to go top and haven't taken advantage, you would think the next time they give basically Inter a layup, they will take advantage of it. But I was shocked that they didn't beat them. Udinese is a good team that kind of goes in and out. But certainly speaking from just how they played, you would have thought Inter would find a way to do this because they just beat the mighty Juventus. You would think they would build on that and try to continue to ride that. But instead, they kind of collapsed. And luckily for them, AC Milan ended up coming up short against Atalanta because if they beat Atalanta, then it's the gap widens. And again, but Atalanta were great today. And then you think of AC Milan, and Do they have the winning intangibles? Last week it was starting to look like it. Now I'm not so sure.
I don't know, man.
It's really hard to say. I don't think there's any team in this league right now that has it, which makes it interesting. Historically speaking, Juve obviously has it, but I'm not sure they have it this season, or else they wouldn't have let that Inter game look so bad. But again, it's an open race, and I mean, when you go look at the numbers, and there's even teams outside of the AC Milan and Inter that have an opportunity to get back in there just because of how tight it has been. So,
But I see you wearing that Roma hat.
yeah.
You back your own team in this title race.
No, no, I don't. I think I've learned it. Again, I'm gonna say it again. So against Lazio, Juventus, Inter, AC Milan, Sassuolo, Atalanta, Napoli. Okay, so those the big teams, right? They got a 3-3 against Milan, which was a fair result. They got a game. They tied with Juventus, which also that game they probably should have won. And then they got a controversial 0-0 with Sassuolo. And I think there was one other game that they tied, or maybe one. I'm not sure. I could look back. But in that time frame, in the big games, 4 points out of a possible 21. Listen, I was at work today just thinking about this. If Roma get 9 of 21, they're top of the league. If Roma get 8 out of 21, they're top of the league. If Roma it's just, I can't say I'm going to back my team. I think my team has some issues. There's good news on the front. El Shaarawy's coming back, get Roma some depth. Needed, especially now that Carlos Perez looks like the worst player in the history of football. And then you have Brian Reynolds, who Juve were interested in. It looks like they're doing a U-turn, and he's coming to Roma. They're negotiating, and it should be closed by the end of the week. Juventus are not willing to match the offer, so you can add there, and then again, I brought this up, but Moriel has been excellent. I know he's only played 922 minutes, but in all competitions, he's the second top scorer. If Roma can manage to get Dzeko out, and I love Dzeko, but I think this is the right move right now, and have Moriel be the starter for the rest of the season, I don't know if they'll be they're not going to win the title, obviously, but it can give them enough momentum where they can start to turn the tide in these games. But again, the second we play a big team, I'm just going to assume we're not going to get the job over the line. But with certain changes and the certain pieces that are coming in, I think it's all possible in terms of, I guess, making it interesting, maybe finishing 5 points adrift at the top of the table, 3 points adrift. Like, I think for Roma, being involved and getting third will put them in position next season to go for the Scudetto, because remember, Zaniolo's coming back. Hopefully not this year. Zaniolo, please don't come back. We don't want to see you this season, because we don't want to see him get injured again and it be, I mean, it's ironic because he's coming in like El Shaarawy at the beginning when he got injured a bunch of times and had that incredible potential. But so I think Roma need to get the Champions League and then look for next year as a team to get the Scudetto, try to get Castrovilli or Rodrigo De Paul, and then just have a different direction with the team. Lorenzo Pellegrini being full-time captain, I think, going forward now. So they have some pieces, but they still lack a lot of stuff that would be required for them to take down an AC Milan team that's going on great form, and then an Inter team who, in my opinion, has the deepest team in the whole league. So,
do you think deep in terms of like young talent or just like win now kind of talent? What I mean by that is like, you know how Liverpool, their players are starting to fade off, and they had that kind of win now versus, let's see, I don't know if there's like a Premier League equivalent, but like young players. Do you think that Inter have that too, especially with Barella and Hakimi? Not to mention Lukaku and Lautaro.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider what Inter have young players. Inter, historically speaking, from the young, just in terms of players in their early 20s, are historically like horrific in terms of development. Look at Piemonte, they gave him away, gave Zaniolo away. If you look at all the players that were supposed to be the next big thing from the Inter Academy, they don't make it very long, and they're usually shipped off. Bastoni is the only one that I see them. He's got everything. He's incredible. If you saw the pass he gave to Barella in the Juventus game, oh my God, such a fantastic player. But when I say depth, I mean if you just look at what they can bring in off the bench, when you look at Gagliardini, you look at Vidal, you look at Brozovic. I mean, they don't always have. It just depends how they play. You can even bring. He's not the best, but experience with Alex Kolarov, Darmian. You have Alex Young. You have all these pieces, and then you have all. Look, I just think top to bottom, they're deeper than everybody because Gagliardini may not be a sexy name, but he starts for practically any other team in the league outside of the Juves and
The top team.
the top teams. Outside of the top E4 teams, he starts for everybody. So, and then Vidal he can be hit and miss, but when he hits, he's excellent. And then I don't know. I think, and this is strange, but I think their biggest weakness is actually in goal because
Really?
Handanovic, I mean, he has moments where he's incredible, but he has Butterfinger moments where he makes one or two really egregious errors in small games. He doesn't make these errors in the big games, which is good, but he just it's time to move on. And maybe I think they have to start looking at that because if they could get a world-class goalkeeper or somebody younger who's maybe not to the level of Handanovic, but in the ballpark, then you kind of have everything solidified because the back line, I would actually get another center back for Inter. Kolarov is just not good enough as even though he's good depth, I don't see him as a really important piece that you can help build. There's up in age for a lot of these guys, but their midfield is strong. Their attack is great. And again, if they could just give an attacking midfielder to bring in, the one I think of is Julian Brandt from Dortmund. I think he would be the perfect Inter player to kind of play in the Eriksen role with a more attacking sense because Vidal and Barella have attacking abilities, but they're more defensive in terms of because when I see Barella, I don't look at the flashy plays and passes. I look at what he can do defensively and sort of creating more issues for an attack. So you get a good attacking midfield piece and maybe not a goalkeeper to start next year, but one for the future to start getting that together. Inter are just poised to win the league at some point. But again, they do fall short a lot, but they have the squad. They have the best team in the league by far. But the problem is it's the mentality thing. They don't have the mentality of some of these other clubs, which is why AC Milan is in first place, not Inter, because they drop a game to Sampdoria and then 0-0 against Udinese, and then even games like the one against Torino, who are horrible. And then they won that game, but it was still a struggle. And then you look at Parma. I think they drew with Parma. Parma is the worst. I mean, in terms of attack, they have the worst attack in the whole league. They can't score a goal. Seriously, they can't score. And I think that game was like 3-3. And my thing, and me and Danielle weren't doing our Serie A podcast at that point. Mm-hmm. But my thing was like, how on earth can you let that team score against you that many times? So it's just games like that really separate themselves from like everybody else because Parma are god-awful. And I love Parma, and it hurts me to say this. They look horrific. And I don't care that Crotone has less points. They can't score. They sold Kulusevski and they can't score a goal anymore. So if you're struggling against a Parma team, you would think you would struggle against, some of the bigger teams. But it's a little wishy-washy. But Inter should not be in this position. They should be in first place. And AC Milan, I think, still deserve to be in the top three. But just based on the team, it's just the table doesn't reflect the best teams in the league because that's not typically how it goes. But they just need to work on, again, when opportunities like this go to the top of the league, this is the third time they had an opportunity to jump and they haven't. And that's the mental thing that I think is really important with Inter. They need to figure that out as quickly as possible because if there's a fourth time and they don't do it, I'm going to lose pretty much any confidence that they're actually going to win the league. I think they'll challenge all the way through, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. I like how you mentioned the Eriksen role because when I think of Eriksen now, I think of how Conte is treating him, benching him, and honestly just dropping all his stock to nothing now.
Yeah.
What is the Ericsson role? You know, I don't even know myself.
Okay, so what I mean by that is when he initially came to Inter, the idea was, and Conte never should have bought him. They only bought him because he was available for 20 million. You have Barella and Vidal, or Barella and Brozovic, however you want to do it. Those three players are all defensive midfielders. They don't have a true attacking midfielder that can do what he does, right? So they have the two defensive midfielders, whoever they are. They need a piece in front of them that can dictate attacking football to feed into Lukaku and Martinez. Again, I'll bring it up again. I think Julian Brandt's the one. Another idea is Florian Neuhaus. What I think Brandt makes the most sense, though, because he is in a role at Dortmund where it's not in his natural position. He is naturally the attacking sense, and now he's being asked to do more than just what he's accustomed to doing. He's still brilliant when he comes on, and he can do some great things. But in the Inter team with Barella and Vidal, or Barella and Brozovic back there, helping feed into the attack with his passing ability, and I think an underrated part of his game is just his ability, his dribbling ability is incredible. And not just the fancy stuff, because we all saw the little back heel things that he does, but he's a good passer. He distributes. He's really good at, and this is not maybe the most elusive skill, but staying in position. He's always in the right place at the right time, or he's always in a situation where he's in the best position for his team to be set. So somebody like that who could operate in front of Barella, because the thing is with Barella, because he scores goals, people confuse the fact that he's an attacking midfielder. He's not. He's a defensive midfielder. And I'm fine with him and Brozovic. In the summer, I thought they should have got another defensive midfielder, but Brozovic has been really good this season with him. They just need someone who can play in front of them in that midfield to basically orchestrate opportunities for the attack with Martinez and Lukaku. Initially I thought Papu Gomez, but he looks to be off to Sevilla. But I don't think they can solve this in January, but they can try to get something done before, in the summer. And I think that's the really important piece for them, is because if you have an attacking minded midfielder that can work well with Lukaku and Martinez, it's going to be incredibly, incredibly difficult for you to stop what they do, because they just don't have that dynamic piece that can rest in front of Barella and Brozovic.
But enough of Inter. Not that, Danielle will probably think to herself, oh, come on.
Me and Danielle are going to talk about this in a couple of days anyway, so.
Still. Across in the Premier League, that Liverpool lost to Burnley, which is kind of the most embarrassing way to lose your home undefeated streak of over 1,000 games. No, sorry, 1,000 days.
Yeah.
Now, do you really buy into the hype that Liverpool are dying? Because their three of Mane, Firmino, and Salah haven't scored haven't contributed more than a goal in the last 5 games. That's woeful. This is supposed to be a dynasty. It's supposed to be a back-to-back Premier League winning.
Yeah, I think the only thing people who I think actually bought into that was Liverpool fans who want more trophies. Look, I understand the Premier League is the Premier League, and other people might view this differently. I think a 6-point spread in the Bundesliga or Italy's, it's really hard to overcome. That's a lot of points. In England, I think it's more. They're easier equipped, and the reason this is why I say this, not because the top teams aren't good. Mm-hmm. If you look at the midsection to the bottom in Italy and in Germany, those teams are tough. Take Schalke out because they're terrible, and take out Crotone and Parma. But if you look at the teams from sort of, let's say from 6 to 15, all those teams can beat any of the teams in the top. They can give them a real run for the money. As far as that, which is why a 6-point gap is huge in those two countries, where I think Liverpool are still in it. But I have to start panicking now, because they just lost points to Burnley and West Brom. With all due respect, Benevento beats both those teams, and they're just got promoted. They're, I think, 12th in the league. And there's teams in Germany specifically that could just run rails on them. So if you're Liverpool, you have to panic right now. And when I mean panic, you need to get open your pockets and start paying to get yourself a center back or get yourself some situation. Because I think this Liverpool team could still win the league, but I don't know if they're equipped to win the Champions League and to become an elite force because they're missing components. And the problem with this is I don't know if Liverpool will be able to identify the ones they actually should buy, because they'll probably look somewhere in the Premier League to find this player, and that's not where you should be looking. You should be looking at some of the midfielders you have in La Liga, the Bundesliga and Serie A. Those, like, for example, Locatelli, if he plays for West Ham, is going for 90 million this summer. I kind of, in a weird way, I kind of compare him to, not compare him, but sort of like he is Jack Grealish value, but he's not playing in England. So you can get someone like him for cheaper. And I think Locatelli is going to end up at Man City personally, but somebody like that who could come in there, a midfielder that could do some stuff and get yourself a good center back, because when Van Dijk goes down, everything from the back line just collapses. Robertson isn't good. Trent is being exposed on defensively more so than usual. I don't know if Liverpool have what it takes to sort of become what they were supposed to, because they've dropped points to some really sketchy opponents.
Yeah.
And you have Salah. If you have Firmino, you have Salah and Sadio Mane. And now there's talk about trying to get Mbappe, which I just don't understand what the logic there is, because Mbappe, they have chemistry with their front three. They need to work out the chemistry problems. If you bring Mbappe in, you're going to have chemistry problems as well. So fix the problems you have with the front three. I don't know, lock them in a room together until they can function as one, because the last few weeks, none of them seem to be on the same page, and that's why they're losing these games. And I guess to a certain point, there's a little arrogance about them in these 0-0 games where you're playing a Burnley or a Sheffield United or one of these younger, one of these lower teams where they're Liverpool, so they're going to find a way. I think they should be playing with a little more desperation, because I'll be honest, Man City looks like they're winning the league. That's what it just looks like right now. I don't think Man United have enough, but they're, and then Leicester's playing really well. So like it's really hard for me to see them finishing, they'll still be in it. I still think they can win the league, but they're making it really difficult on themselves.
Let's see. So, moving across leagues, I mean, the Dutch league is one that barely gets talked about these days. And, one player that's, like a Dutch league legend is Arjen Robben. When he came out of PSV, went to Chelsea, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. Everyone knows his story. What's funny is like he retired in 2019 and then came back to play for Groningen, I think, his boyhood club. And well, one thing I was meaning to ask you was like, if you remember the 2014 World Cup when he had that controversial play, when he had that controversial play against Mexico in the 90th minute, did you think that was a penalty?
I'll be honest. If this is gonna sound really messed up, if it was, what's another Dutch player? Just an example from that.
Van Persie.
If it was Van Persie, if that happened to Van Persie, I think you can say, okay, that's a penalty. Mm-hmm. It's not a penalty almost because it was Robben, because he just had the reputation of flaunting himself in the box with little to no contact. You look at the expression on his face in slow motion, how it looks like he's in extraordinary pain. And it literally was a Mexican foot, or Mexican national team foot, with like just barely touched him. And he just like flaunts himself into the box. Some of the stuff is circumstantial. If you look at this, if another Dutch player comes into the box and ends up being tripped and he falls over, it's probably a penalty. But it seemed like he was already making the motion before he was even clipped, and he was barely clipped. 9 times out of 10, if you redo that play over and over again, the attacker in this scenario is not falling over. They might, stumble a little bit, but there's no way that a man of his athletic ability is going to be overpowered by a very weak tackle. On the Mexico's defender part, It was a weak tackle. It was dumb. Because that tackle, even though it did win the penalty, it was just a dumb play from that perspective, just because that wasn't going to do anything. If it's not Robben, nothing's happening, and probably doing that on somebody else, it probably spins them into a better position. It was an ill-advised tackle it wasn't a smart play, but it's definitely not a penalty from that perspective, because you have to look at, okay, yes, he fell in the box. Yes, he overreacted, but it's possible you can overreact and have a case for yourself. If you look at the play, there's no way that's a penalty. And does it change the result? Does Mexico then go on to win the World Cup or get to the next round? It's hard to say, because Mexico were up in that game 3-1, and they let that slip. I understand that the Dutch scored their second goal was a penalty that wasn't given. But again, if you look at the Mexico situation, it would have been the worst team to ever play in the World Cup quarterfinal. There's no reason they should have been even in, they were fortunate to be in front to begin with, and to have that lead to begin with. And I felt bad because it was a little detail that defined the entire tournament for Mexico. And it was more or less the same Mexico that always comes short at the same point every single tournament. And it wasn't their fault. And maybe Mexico goes on to win. I would probably say the Dutch would have found a goal, but it is one of the most wrong decisions that I've seen in a World Cup. And this was before VAR review. If in the VAR area, you look at it and you realize it's not a penalty, you move on. Although some of the VAR decisions that have been made in Italy and Germany and England this year have been borderline that bad, but I just don't see a scenario where it's not because he dived, because I think that's the thing that everyone looks at. You have to think to yourself, is that tackle providing enough force to have the attacker fall over? And I just don't think so, because he makes the tackle. There's some connection, but not enough force to make Robben is this pretty skinny guy, but he's quick, and I get all that, but it's still not enough to make him fall over. And under other circumstances, I would doubt that is called in this era, or even the previous World Cup this happened, it wouldn't be called, just because it has to take quite a bit. If he's getting clipped with his foot in the box, falls over, okay. Even if his face looks like he's going to die. But based on the way that the play unfolded, I have a hard time believing that that's a penalty. And I think most people would say that it wasn't. Even as some Dutch players, I bet you behind closed doors, a lot of those understood that wasn't a penalty. Is it worse than Luis Suarez handball thing in the Ghana goal? I don't think so, but it's still one of the worst calls in the World Cup, at least over the last couple tournaments, because again, I'm going to say it again, the defender is not having enough force to take down Arjen Robben. And that's basically the mic drop, because if you just look at a play, like there's no way he falls over just with the tackle. That was 97% Robben. The only thing that the Mexico defender did was make a stupid tackle that allowed Robben to have the opportunity to dive in front of it inside the box. So I would say that's not a penalty. I would say the Netherlands still advance. They still win that game, and they still go to the semifinals. But under those circumstances, you can't convince me that was actually a penalty.
But do you think it's career defining, like some of the Mexico fans are trying to illustrate it as? Or do you think it was just like a moment of desperation? Because it was the 94th minute or 91st minute of a World Cup game.
Yeah. In that respect, maybe Mexico wanted to win, but who was in the quarter? Who did the Netherlands play in the quarterfinals?
Costa Rica.
Oh, okay. So I understand why Mexican fans are so mad, because I'll be honest, I think that Costa Rica team was better than Mexico. I think that Costa Rica team probably would have gone forward. But if you're a Mexico fan, you have to feel like, dejected, because it's not a Brazil, it's not Argentina, it's not Germany, it's not, all these other teams. It's Costa Rica. I know they have Keylor Navas on goal, but I don't know another player from that off the top of my head from that team. So it's just like I understand why Mexico fans are so mad because they could have gone to a semifinal. They would have been humiliated in the semi because they would have played Argentina. Oh my God, that would have been a bloodbath. But I don't rank it in the same class as I. So for example, there's moments where you'll always be remembered for that thing. So for me, Rivaldo getting the ball kicked at him at his leg, grabbing his face. No matter what he does, he had a bicycle kick that won the La Liga title for Barcelona. It will always be remembered for that particular moment in the World Cup. Maradona, he's great, but the handball thing always comes up. That's another defining moment. You could say, this is just me. It's going to be really hard for me to think of Andrew Robertson without the quote. They celebrated as if they won the tie, only to get overturned in the next leg to Atletico Madrid. I actually really like Andrew Robertson, but to me, that's another moment that no matter what he does, unless he wins the Ballon d'Or, that's going to be something that you remember him by. I don't think you look at Robben, and this is how it cancels it out. So just watch what I do with this here. So it could have been a defining moment where another one is Luis Suarez's thing. Luis Suarez biting. I mean, there's probably less. Luis Suarez was one that's also like that. But again, the reason Luis Suarez, he's not known for that particular thing only. He was MSN. He won the Champions League. He had a goal. He had a season where he had 59 and 24. Okay, so it totally obliterates the fact that he bit someone, even though that is something that will be always talked about. For Robben, he scored a game-winning goal in the Champions League final in the 90th minute. If he even with that penalty, it's not the single thing you remember. So when you think of Arjen Robben, I think of that goal, and that's the first thing that comes to my mind. The second thing that comes to my mind is him diving in that game, in that penalty. But because of the Champions League final winning goal, it's going to be hard for him to be remembered for something, for that singular moment, where if he doesn't score in a Champions League final, then it's totally different because, again, there's again, all the examples I brought up of those singular things. So I think it's defining. His World Cup legacy will be defined by that moment, but his career legacy is always going to be Champions League final winning goal first. Then you can talk about the dive against Mexico.
What about the 2010 World Cup final? Do you remember when he missed that chance against Casillas, where it came off with Casillas' toe?
Yeah, but that's one of the 5 greatest goalkeepers of all time.
That is true, and I agree.
You know what I mean? It's just like if that's against Kepa or something, then it's different. But this is Casillas. He is really high on my list of all-time keepers. In my lifetime, probably outside of maybe Oliver Kahn and Manuel Neuer, probably. I mean, that's pretty much where he ranks. Oblak, if he continues, maybe, but I think Casillas is he's just a level. So yes, he missed that opportunity, but I honestly think the Van Persie miss against the Argentina goalkeeper Romero, I think was his name. Who was at Man United? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Romero.
Yeah, Romero. There was a chance in the semifinal where he could have scored. It was just totally set up, and he tried to do too much and whiffed it. But that chance in that game, I think it hit the bar. I'm not totally sure. I think that's more in terms of more defining than Robben not being able to beat one of the best goalkeepers we've ever seen. So, but again, that penalty will always come up with Robben, but it won't be the first thing that comes up, which is why I think it ranks differently than some of these other ones where we'll always, like Rivaldo's the one, always be defined by that singular moment regardless.
And the reason I brought up Robben to begin with was because it's his birthday today. And so he turns 37, and he's one of the last of our generation to be, Ballon d'Or worthy in the Ronaldo Messi era.
Yeah.
But you brought up Luis Suarez. I have a great question.
Yeah.
Do you think that he should have won the Ballon d'Or in 2016, the year that Griezmann won the Golden Boot at the Euros? But Ronaldo won the Champions League and the Euros and the Ballon d'Or.
Was it the 59-goal season?
I think it was.
Yeah, who cares? It belongs to him. Look, do you know how many people in the history of football have ever had a 59-24 season? You know who hasn't had a 59-24 season? The guy who actually won the Ballon d'Or that year, Ronaldo. Ronaldo has had seasons where he had that, I think it was 6 or 7 years in a row where he had 50 goals plus. But it wasn't always 20 assists. It was in the ballpark. But to have 59-24, and I think he had 37 league goals in La Liga with the Real Madrid dynasty and with the MSN. I wouldn't say it's a travesty because Ronaldo won the Champions League. Barcelona won the league title that year, right?
Yeah, they won it by 1 point.
Yeah, so that almost goes even more into Suarez's favor. And the reason he didn't get it that year is the same reason Neymar didn't get it. It'll be harder for him to get it over somebody else because of his biting situations in the past. He's unlikable, which made it difficult for him to be awarded. But that might be the single greatest season I've ever seen at that position. There's obviously the Messi season where he had 91 goals in calendar year. And the Ronaldo season, the 08 Ronaldo season was fantastic. 41 goals with Man United. But at the striker position, because I don't think of Messi and Ronaldo, either of them as strikers. I think of Ronaldo as basically a winger, and I think of Messi as just a midfielder. I know he's technically a forward, but I just think of him as midfield because he spends a lot of time in the midfield. So, but Luis Suarez, at that position, I don't think I've ever seen a better season. Think about this. Robert Lewandowski dropped a 55-10 season and was overwhelmingly the best player last season. Suarez not only did that, scored more, and assisted twice as much. And Robert's actually a really underrated passer, and he's actually more complete than people think. He's not just a goal scorer because just a goal scorer can't get 10 assists. That's just not the way it works. But again, that was an all-time great season he had last season, and he's on pace to do something similar this season. But that Suarez season is even better than what he did last season. And everybody was sort of in awe about how good Robert was last year.
It was like a unanimous decision. Do you think that it's because of reputation? For example, let's see. Could Sergio Ramos ever win a Ballon d'Or? Could Mark Van Bommel win a Ballon d'Or? Dirty players.
Probably not.
And do you think Suarez falls into that category of like being disliked?
I understand why people don't like him. In fact, when he was doing the biting, and then there was misconception due to racism with Patrice Evra. This is the difficult part. I don't know who to believe on that situation, and I don't want to get into this too much. But in his book, there's a word, the word that he reportedly said. I'm not going to say it, but in Spanish, it means something. It doesn't have a racial connotation to it.
Yeah.
And also the handshake thing. If you look, and I don't want to take shots at Patrice Evra. His hand is you see him shaking hands with everybody to start the game. When you watch him go through the line, Patrice Evra lowers his hand. So when he comes to Patrice Evra, the hands are not like locked up together. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a slight, and there's a lot of stuff that blown proportion. But so people didn't like him for that reason, which I think is a little misconception. Again, I'm not sure the whole situation. I just know what I've read and what I've seen. But the biting thing, and on top of that, it was going to be really difficult for him to do that. Again, you can say Ronaldo may not be the most likable. Like I know that for some people it bothers them that the Ronaldo continuously needs to declare that he's the best thing that's ever happened to football. And he may be right. There's only a few players who have been more, who have been greater at any point in time. But he doesn't necessarily need to continue to tell everybody how great he is. And I think that I don't mind it because if I was Ronaldo, I'd be doing the same thing. But I think it rubs some people the wrong way. but because it's such a minor thing, his greatness is so good it overpowers anything. Where with Suarez, it's almost good enough to overpower everything he has done from the I don't know the racial stuff that is. I think it's just I just don't know if who's right and the wrong or what the whole situation is. And then the biting thing. I think if Suarez was 5% greater than he was, then he would have won it. But it's just like the biting stuff still bothered people years after. And after the Cicciolini thing in the World Cup, it wasn't that he didn't even bite anybody. He barely got booked for any reason. So I think it was a little unfair during that season for them to completely ignore that he just probably had the greatest season at the striker position in the Champions League era, which is hard to do.
Not to mention, he did score if anything, they said Messi was in the top 3 that year. But it should have been Suarez. The fact that he didn't even get a nomination is
I think that was ridiculous.
I don't think he was top 5. And it was because they say, the Copa America, that he was injured. He had a hamstring problem. But I don't buy that, man, because Messi, skied the penalty in the final. And yet he was top 2 for that.
Who's the other one? Neymar?
Griezmann.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was Atletico Griezmann.
Yeah.
Not the one we're seeing on a daily basis. Even though he had a good game a couple weeks ago, but that was Atletico Griezmann, who's an animal and all that. We get that. But are you really going to sit up here and suggest that he had a better season than 59 and 24?
No chance.
I'm not into the stats as much as most people, but those are just undeniable numbers. That might be the greatest season out of the striker position in the Champions League era. And I think because of this, Suarez may be one of the most underrated players in this decade. You can even say football history. I'm not saying I'll do it, but you could argue he's a top 20 player of all time based on his productivity. And I'm not saying he's in that, but I understand the argument there because he's been incredible at every single place he's been in. Great at Ajax, amazing at Liverpool, amazing at Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid, he's killing it, and he's 33 years old. So I think because of Suarez's biting situations, he ends up becoming underrated. He doesn't get the credit he deserves, which makes him underrated as a player. And just look at the numbers, man. He has 100+ goals at Barcelona.
Third top scorer of all time.
What's that?
He's their 3rd top scorer of all time.
Yeah, it's incredible.
He had to play with the top scorer. So meaning if he was on his own, if he was basically what Messi is, where it's like Messi has the full control.
Yeah.
He's the number 9, you can say. Or false 9.
Yeah.
He could probably have the number 1 if Messi exists though.
Yeah, Messi wasn't the greatest thing we've ever seen in football. No, and I think his passing is underrated too. 24 assists may be very easy to get on FIFA in a career mode. It's like almost impossible in real life. And we've seen Messi do it, but in fairness, that's probably his greatest skill outside of his dribbling is his passing ability. And Suarez did it out of the striker position where he's in front of everybody. So there's just a lot in there that justifies that he should have won that ball in the door. And I wasn't a big fan of – I didn't like Suarez at the time because of all the reasons other people don't like Suarez at the time. But there's no way there's no denying that he was the best player through that season. That if you want to say over a calendar year that Ronaldo was better in that year, but that season nobody was better from start to finish, in my opinion. So it's one that he deserves, but unfortunately he never got an opportunity to win what I believe is rightfully his.
But do you think that's something that they're trying to revert now? Like, for example, I know that last year it would have been given to Lewandowski almost for the same reason that's given to Messi and Ronaldo every year, which is that they scored the most goals and that scored in the biggest competitions. Like they win the Champions League, you win the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
But do you think we'll ever see an age where goals aren't the defining factor, or the Champions League is not the defining factor?
I have faith that eventually we'll get there. Um, last year, Dybala won the Serie A MVP with 11 goals.
Wow.
They don't typically give out awards like that to somebody with such a low number of goals. So because that happened, I have faith that eventually they'll understand. By the way, they were right. I don't care how many goals that anyone else had. They were completely right. Why did Juventus win the league? Because they beat Inter twice. Why did they beat Inter twice? Because of Dybala. And then you look at he basically scored in every big game that there was. I know there was one or two he didn't, but he played well in every big game that they played in the league. In the Champions League, he wasn't as consistent, but in the league, he won the MVP with 11 goals. If the Italian Federation is crowning someone with 11 goals, I think we'll eventually get to a point where you give it to somebody, the Ballon d'Or will be given to someone who's more deserving despite not having the stats. Unfortunately, the Bundesliga and the Premier League haven't quite come around yet. I believe they gave it to Kevin De Bruyne last year, if I'm not mistaken, who had the assist record. In that situation, fair enough, because I understand it. But you could have easily I think once we see all the leagues do kind of what they did, is crowning somebody who's doesn't have the stats but who has been the best player, then maybe we'll start seeing it in the more European centric awards. But and again, I don't intend that Dybala will win it again or something like that. They might go back up to goal scoring competition, and I assume they will. But you just don't know. So the fact that they did it once, maybe they do it again. And I'd like to see the Bundesliga, for example, giving that award to a Joshua Kimmich, who didn't have the statistics. And you know how I feel about Joshua Kimmich. He's third best player in the world, but his stats aren't amazing. They're pretty mediocre for like from a stats perspective. But you could argue who's the best player in the Bundesliga last year. You could argue that they don't win the Champions League or the league without him. And then I'd like to see somebody in England, also like not a lesser player, someone who doesn't have the statistical argument, get it. I don't know who that would be, but somebody like Jack Grealish or something, because he's been incredible. He's not going to win it, but he doesn't have maybe the statistics that at the end of the season you'll see from Bruno Fernandes, from KDB, from other players at that level. So once we start seeing players who don't have the 20-plus goal seasons start getting into individual awards inside their leagues, then we might start to see a change in perspective. But so far, only one league has kind of gone by this. Well, again, it's only been 1 year, but only one league operated their criteria of their individual awards for their league, not based on stats. So the fact that they gave it to Dybala with 11 goals makes me think and hope that England, Spain, and Germany will start to change the way they kind of look at it. But again, we'll see what happens in the season. If Ronaldo gets it, then it totally obliterates it, at least to a certain extent, because he's been great. So I don't know. I have a whole thing on this. He's been great, and finally the top scorer of all time, at least, kind of wins another trophy for them. But he's been great this season. But you could look at guys like Mkhitaryan. If Mkhitaryan wins the MVP of the league, then they're changing perspective, because again, it's going to sound weird coming from a Roma fan. I think there's no doubt he's been the MVP this season, considering what he's around. And I know that Juventus isn't the best, but they still have Dybala there. And still have Morata, who scored on every big stage. You still have McKinney. You still have De Ligt. So there's a lot of – on paper, they look better than Roma. And Mkhitaryan was not supposed to have this season. Um, and there's other ones. Like, he'll never get it, but DePaul is having an outstanding season. I mean, he should be in conversation with midfield of the year. If they gave it to like Locatelli, that would change it. So it just depends on how if they change their way they evaluated it. Then maybe you'll start some changing. But we'll see. One thing at a time. If I'm guessing Ronaldo will get it because of the storyline of Juventus. But again, as soon as those leagues start evaluating their individual awards differently, then I think UEFA will start doing it differently as well. Because I miss the days where you could win the Ballon d'Or with 4 goals, like Zidane did it and others. And Laura Matthias, who you brought up last week, who won it with not the greatest stats. So we'll see, though.
But do you think that's unfair on like the top strikers now? Do you think like they're gonna think, damn, well, if I was just around 10 years ago and I did what Messi did, I'd have 5 Ballon d'Ors. Do you think that's like the gold? You know how like in the 1950s there was like the gold rush in the United States where everyone ran to collect gold. Same thing here with goals. You like to play on words.
Right.
Where it's like score 91 goals in a year, you won the Ballon d'Or. Doesn't matter if you only won the Copa del Rey. And that Real Madrid had 100 points, and that Ronaldo made a Euro semifinal against Spain, which was in their dominant era. You just score 91 goals and you'll be fine. I just feel like that era is over. But if there is like a resurgence, especially with a player as talented as Erling Haaland, wouldn't it be kind of unfair to give a guy who scores 80 goals in a calendar year the second place and give it to like, let's say, okay, let's be as honest as possible. Let's say Bayern win the Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
I would give it to Thomas Muller or Joshua Kimmich. Assuming what they are consistently doing is what they end up doing this season.
Yeah.
And then Haaland scores 80 goals in the calendar year. Who do you give the Ballon d'Or to?
Where did Dortmund finish?
Quarterfinals, second place.
You're making me think now. This season.
Yeah.
All right. In any other year, I'd give it to Joshua Kimmich. If Haaland takes this Dortmund team to second place, I see that as more valuable because he's not around a lot of – it's basically he passes to Gio Reyna, hope he scores, or he scores. And I know they have Julian Brand out of the pieces. This Dortmund team, Sancho's not really playing well this season. They're nothing. And right now they're in 7th place. And just getting to second seems impossible. So if he's able to propel his entire situation to second place and he gets like 80 goals in the calendar year, then I would have to give it to Haaland because of the mountain to climb, which would be different because Bayern are overall like the best team in the Champions League. It's not close. There's not even a close second, really. They're supposed to win the Champions League. If they don't win the Champions League, it would be disappointing. It would be, it would almost be shocking, right? So them not winning the Champions League, it's just hard because the Champions League is so good, but they're so good, and Joshua Kimmich is probably more valuable. But the problem with that argument is it's not being able – you can't highlight it because Joshua Kimmich is playing every week. If you took Joshua Kimmich out of this season and see how they did and then it shows his value, then you can – okay, say, okay, this is how valuable he is. He should win it over Haaland. But if Haaland, gets to whatever, 80 goals this calendar year, gets to the quarterfinals of the Champions League or better – and takes them from 7th. I think they're like 9 points adrift from second place right now. And they gets them to second, and they lose out to Bayern to the title by like 4 points. Considering where they are now to where that hypothetically would be, I think that's a little bit more impressive, and it shows more value to his team based on how poor they have been this season. So if he takes them from where they are now to second place, then you give it to him. If they don't finish in the top 2 or 3 this season, then it doesn't matter. Then you give it to Kimmich or Muller or Lewandowski or who the winner would have to come from Bayern. Because I think it all depends on where Dortmund would finish. If they finished in second, I think actually second, maybe third. Third will be more difficult to justify giving it to Holland, but if they finish second, I think that would be the right place to have. It would be rightfully his, even though I think it would be close between him and Kimmich or Mueller, whoever was the most outstanding Bayern Munich player in the Champions League.
Do you think if Bayern hadn't won the Champions League, that Kimmich would be getting this kind of recognition?
Wait, so if they had not won it?
If they hadn't won the Champions League?
Probably not. He probably wouldn't get the recognition he does, and he still doesn't. He still doesn't get the recognition that he deserves because nobody thinks he's a top 5 player. I think he's at worst 4 in the whole world. I don't think anybody. Everyone rates him, but no one rates him in the top 5. And people rate him probably in the top 10. If it's not for the Champions, they probably don't even rate him in the top 10, which I think would be ridiculous. But that's just the way people think because I haven't heard anybody else really talk about him in the top 3 the way I did last week. So that makes – because I'm not hearing that from other places. No one else is really talking like that. And because of that, I think if there's no Champions League, his credit goes down just because he's already not getting enough credit. So it would make it almost impossible for him to get more credit if they don't win the Champions League last season.
But do you think that it loses its – okay. What I'm trying to say is Bayern won the Champions League this year, hypothetically speaking.
Yeah.
I would give the Ballon d'Or to Kimmich. Do you think that it kind of like if that happens, that Bayern winning it a third time, Kimmich wouldn't get it again?
Wait, you're saying if
Bayern win the Champions League this year,
yep,
Kimmich would be a front runner for the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
But then, you know how, like, for example, when Real Madrid won their 3 Champions Leagues, Ronaldo won 2, and then there was voter fatigue, and Modric won 1.
Yeah.
You know? Do you think that Kimmich would be like the go-to guy for the Ballon d'Or based on Bayern's success? Or would it just be kind of like a complimentary award where it's like given to him because of his hard work, but like that it wouldn't be given to him consistently?
I don't know. It's hard to say because I have a theory on this.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll give it to Lewandowski because they'll feel bad for him because he wasn't able to win it last year.
I never understood why they canceled it. They canceled the Golden Boot. Oh man, that sucks for him. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, he won the Champions League and was smiling like it was the best day of his life. So I don't think he cares that much. But I would say that Kimmich he's always going to be involved in the Ballon d'Or conversation. And if Dortmund don't propel themselves into the top 2, I think it's rightfully his this year. And if they do it again, it's probably – I don't know. The thing is, if they win it, it will be between the 3. It will be between Mueller, Lewandowski, and Kimmich. I would guess Robert gets the edge because of his goal-scoring ability. And I don't know. I would say the gap between him and the rest of the strikers and Kimmich and the rest of the defensive midfielders, I think they're both clear by quite a distance. So I think it'd be between those two, where if you look at Mueller and the next best player at his position, it's a conversation where I think Mueller and Kimmich are clear their positions. It would be given to one of those 3. I don't know who they would give it to. I think it would all come down to circumstances. But I would guess that Robert would be the front runner regardless because of the amount of goals that he's going to end up scoring this season.
Another point I want to make. Do you think Lewandowski, when he scored the 5 goals in 9 minutes, that should have been Ballon d'Or worthy? Now, what I mean is like one game doesn't win you Ballon d'Or. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But do you think that if that happens in any other year, he wins the Ballon d'Or?
If he did that this year, it'd be over already.
Oh my God. It's ridiculous. Do you know how hard it is to score 1 goal? It was a Super Cup. It was a huge game. This was not a farmers league. Like, people don't get it.
Wolfsburg. It was against Wolfsburg, and they had just finished
That's
second.
the Wolfsburg that lost De Bruyne. But then shocked Madrid and beat them 2-0 in the first leg.
Yeah.
Context matters. This is why I always feel like those moments, they are like fine wines where they get better over time.
Even if it was against like Bielefeld, I don't think you should minimize it. Even with that, like I'm not. Andre Silva was great today. I don't care who he was playing against. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But the fact that it was against a team that made the what was the quarterfinals of the Champions League or round of 16?
Yeah.
Quarterfinals. So they made quarterfinals of Champions League because they played Man United in the round of 16 and advanced, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think. So that almost justifies it even further because they had Real Madrid on the ropes, and it's the same team that Robert scored 5 goals in 9 minutes. And if you look at it, those were very not easy goals. All these goals were at extreme difficulty, except for maybe one. So I think that if he did that this year, it'd be over. And I think he should have got more. I think that year it would have been difficult because he only scored like 32 goals that season.
Only.
I know, but you know what I mean? When Ronaldo and Messi are hitting 50, you can't be in the 30s. You don't got a shot.
That's just the standard they hold them.
But I think that season would have been pretty hard to argue just because of that. And then following that, but if he'd done that any other year, this year or last year, I think there'd be no point in even talking about it anymore because it'd be over.
Do you think that marketing either makes or breaks you? Like, for example, in the 2018 World Cup, Neymar took a huge hit. Every little kid was diving and saying, Neymar.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you dribble through a team of players, and a Messi, like Messi's iconically synonymous with, like, greatness. Do you think that, like, marketing can be an inhibiting factor in, like, someone winning a Ballon d'Or?
I mean, it's hard not to, especially
like Conte, 2018.
Yeah.
Some people were saying he should have won the Ballon d'Or. I was thinking to myself, what? You know, Chelsea finished third, I think, in the league. They got knocked out in the round of 16 in the Champions League. But France won the World Cup, and everyone loves Conte.
Yeah.
Why not give it to the friendly guy that won the balls in the midfield and stop Messi?
It's
it's all about narratives, really.
Yeah, it's the same reason that the year Modric won it, Varane and Griezmann were in the top 4, I believe.
So was Mbappe.
And Mbappe, Messi, and Salah were like 5th and 6th, which was a joke.
Salah should have.
Mo Salah probably should have won it that year.
Probably.
I don't care that they didn't win anything. I really don't. This is going to play into Mbappe's favor, I think, because every kid loves Kylian Mbappe. Every football fan thinks signing him is going to solve all their problems, which is why I'm going to give credit to him first. But I think Jack was in on this before everyone else. If you look back at that World Cup, you can argue Mbappe was not one of the France's 3 best players because there were – I mean, you just look at that team. Varane was excellent in that tournament. Then you look at Griezmann, who was kind of everything. And then there was – even Lloris was excellent in that tournament. So you could argue who's the 4th best player in the France team. But because he's flashy and exciting, he got the credit, more credit than he deserved at that time, which – by extension, as talented as he is, has made him overrated. And maybe that has gone into why he has come up short in a lot of these big Champions League games. He doesn't have a goal in the round of 16 or after since he was at Monaco.
Wow.
And I believe, I could be wrong about that. If he does, it's – no, actually, I don't think he does.
Well, 2018, he was knocked out by Real Madrid. And the only person
he didn't score
was Rabiot and Cavani. Then 2019, no, he did score. He did score against Manchester United. So that's the last goal he scored.
That was 1, though. That's 1 in. He's been there for how many years?
I think 4 now, but it's been 2, 3 since.
So that's
this Barca is very weak. I will tell you that. Do you think this is, do you think that this could be make or break for Mbappe?
I think he might have already hit that, I guess, supposed wall of becoming that, again, that there's a difference between Messi, Ronaldo, and, for example, Kaká and R9 and Rivaldo. I mean, all of them are great, but I even put Zlatan in the Messi Ronaldo class. He's not as good, but those three have something extra that the rest don't have. And I'm not sure Mbappe has something extra, and he has time to get into it. But this is why I kind of suggested a few months ago that he might have hit his ceiling in terms of potential-wise, because those type of players find a way to score in those games. And he's kind of failed to do so. And if you look at, he's been there for 4 years. That's at least 8 Champions League knockout games. So it's actually more than 8 because they made the final last year. So it's like 10 to 12 knockout games. And he has 1 goal. That's 1 in 12. If Ronaldo scored 1 goal in 12, the internet would light him on fire. If Messi scored 1 goal in 12 games, they would call him a phony goat.
Fraud.
A fraud. Even if Haaland didn't score, was 1 in 12 in knockout games, people would say he's no generational talent. He's an overrated, you know what. So I think Mbappe has had everything catered to him. So because of that, I don't think he gets a pass. He's been the most exciting talent. He's playing with Neymar, who is the best player in the world at this moment. He's playing with the best. He will never play with a better player than Neymar. He's on one of the best teams in the world with a huge budget, who now have a really good coach and previously played for a really good coach. There's no excuse for him not to be coming in these games. He's playing minutes, and he was really good against Atalanta at the end in that second half, made a big difference. But he hasn't scored goals, and that's what Mbappe is. That's what Mbappe does. I believe he had 39 goals, not last season, but the year before that. And he has been he was crowned before he should have been. So because of that, it is make or break. Where he goes next will be the real make or break, because it will largely determine what the rest of his career will look like. If he makes the wrong decision, I won't say he's already an all-time great, but he's basically an all-time great already. The question is how high he can climb that mountaintop. Historically, how high can he get? And that will largely determine his next move and whether he has the right attitude and mentality to go after it. And my guess is it's Real Madrid. But if Real Madrid isn't this place for him and he continues to come up short in the big Champions League games, that will start being attached to Mbappe's career. Is great individual talent, but came up short in the big games. And I understand he scored in World Cup final, but in the Champions League, he never showed up in the way he should have. And that's not what the narrative is now, but that's what it could be if he doesn't. It's going to be really interesting the next couple months. Regardless, he needs to find a way to sort of break into that. And so again, it's going to come down to whether or not he can deliver. If he can't deliver, that narrative will be attached to him, whether it's fair or unfair.
But do you think he's a victim of his own early success, in the sense of like people putting expectations on him? Because there's no guarantees in football. Like, for example, when Messi scored those 4 goals against Arsenal, we were all thinking to ourselves, damn, this could be one of the greatest players ever.
Yeah.
But he could have easily flopped. He goes and does better. He scores 91 in a calendar year, which had 69 games. No Copa America, no nothing really over the summer. Extraordinary, right? Obviously, that's unbeatable. It probably will take a long time, if ever, that it's beaten.
I think
the thing with Mbappe for me is that Mbappe hasn't had those like crazy seasons yet. So like I don't put it past him having a great season. I just don't think he won't have one.
I think he individually he's incredible. He's one of the best talents the game has ever seen. He's gonna go down as probably one of the 50 greatest players to ever play football. That's just the way it is. He's so talented that even if he does a sleepwalking, he'll end up there. But when you talk about being able to handle the pressure, You know he's in his class. He has one Champions League goal against Manchester United in the round of 16 and later, and that's it over his last, let's say, 10 games. The two other names that are brought up with Mbappe. Let's analyze this. João Felix came on against RB Leipzig. What happened?
Changed the game.
Changed the game. Scored a goal. Right. Haaland, he was largely responsible for PSG being in a hole against Dortmund. And why did Dortmund get knocked out? Because Neymar was maybe at his best, at his peak, he was at another level. And if you look at the situation, and Haaland has also scored a hat trick against Liverpool at Anfield. In a loss, fair enough. But that's not a knockout stage game. But that's a full strength Anfield, Liverpool with Van Dijk, with him healthy. I think he had 5 goals in 2 games against Liverpool. He might have had 6. He might have had 2 hat-tricks. I don't know. He had an extremely high number of goals, which that 2 performances earned him the move to Dortmund. He was he broke some record of being the fastest goal-scoring player to hit 40 goals or whatever. So it is proven through Felix and through Haaland that they understand the pressure that's on them, but they have been able to deliver in the same moments that Mbappe has not delivered. And Mbappe may not have the stuff to be able to handle the pressure, and he'd still be great. But we've already seen evidence from Felix and Haaland to be able to perform. And I don't put De Ligt and Davies in this conversation only because as a defender, you don't have the same expectations that's rested on an attacking player. But Mbappe has scored and has been great in the Champions League. My issue with him is he hasn't come up big when it counts, and that's the problem. Now, he can come up in the Barcelona game, score a hat trick, and he can kill all this. This is the thing Mbappe needs to understand. He just needs one performance. Because the problem with this is when we remember the Champions League, unfortunately, we'll remember the header that Kingsley Coman scored, but we'll also remember how many opportunities Mbappe had to put PSG back in it and failed miserably. He needs a resounding performance. He needs a signature performance against Barcelona, hat trick, 2 goals, maybe 2 goals, 3 assists, something crazy. If he does this in knockout stage, I think we still have the right to criticize and still have the right to hold off making sort of a proclamation that he's made it in that same class. But it will justify the talent and the popularity and the marketability of a Kylian Mbappe, who is, by all extensions, one of the most likable players on the planet, one of the most exciting players when he came out, it was incredible how good he was. So he needs a standout performance in a Champions League game, like, for example, Haaland against Liverpool and like Felix against Atletico. And Felix was pretty decent in some of the other games too, but that's the RB Leipzig game that he had was like, okay, this kid's the real deal. And we know Mbappe is the real deal, but we've yet to have that moment that we say to ourselves, whoa, this kid is something else. And I think a performance against Barcelona, as bad as as putrid as they might be compared to the Barcelona hierarchy standards, if he just performs big, scores a hat-trick against Barcelona, then he can put this entire narrative to bed. But he needs a performance in a round of 16 game, or else he started as the best youngster in the world. Then he became second. Now you could argue he's all the way down to 3rd or 4th because of because De Ligt and Felix. So he needs a performance. Not that it matters that he's the best youngster, but it can justify everything, and it takes the pressure off him a little bit. More pressure will be required if he performs, but he needs to perform to answer to the critics like you, like me, like Jack, who said that he's not as good as the media is. They prematurely crowned him. And that's not fair to him necessarily. But if he performs against Barcelona, we will basically tip our hats and like, okay, this kid is something else.
What if Barcelona beat PSG?
Beat PSG?
I was trying to think in my head how that could possibly happen.
In what respects? Like, what angle are you thinking on this point?
You remember how Man United, they said they had no chance against PSG.
Yeah.
They knocked them out with some BS 90th-minute penalty from Kimpembe, and they went through. Do you remember how much PSG got clowned?
Yeah.
Do you think like a defeat in this round of 16 would like kill? What I'm trying to say is this game is more important than people think. If Barcelona somehow win this game, not that they'll win the Champions League, there's no faith. Mbappe will have no faith in this PSG team to win a Champions League. Neymar will probably want to leave because he's like, I'm never winning a Champions League with these guys. And if anything, Barcelona will be like, wow, this PSG side, the strongest ever, ours, weakest ever, we still beat them. In a world where this can happen, which I don't think is ours, do you think that would spell the end of Mbappe at PSG?
I think he's leaving anyways. I know I said that if you stay another year, but I think the reason I said that is because he'll never play with a player like Neymar ever again. But I think Mbappe's too young to realize what gift it has been playing with Neymar. And again, he will never play with someone better than Neymar. But again, he has that young mindset, so I'm not sure he'll take that into consideration when Real Madrid say, okay, we're going to pay $300 million for this kid. Come be the new number 7 at Real Madrid. I mean, technically Hazard has number 7, but we can make a jersey change. But or AC Milan win the league, and they said AC Milan are back. Let's get Mbappe to make it. We can be the new Juventus. Or I doubt he goes to the Premier League, but Man City is enticing. I would see Haaland as a more likely Premier League type player. I actually think Haaland will end up playing in the Bundesliga for a while, but again, if any of these kind of big teams come in for him, he's going to consider it. And it's that's just kind of the way it is with everything. Not to bring a FIFA example in here, but on career mode, I was with Bayern Munich. I just won the Champions League. I was the best player in the Bundesliga on the game. And Barcelona wanted to sign me. And I know this isn't necessarily relative to real football, but when I got the thing, I kind of understood how difficult it is to say no to a better opportunity or a bigger opportunity or an opportunity to be that player for a huge team. So when someone comes in for Mbappe, it's going to be really difficult for him to say no. And so I think he's gone regardless unless they win the Champions League, and then maybe it delays it. But it just seems like he's determined for a new challenge.
Because I'm hearing rumors that Messi's going to PSG. I believe it. I think it's one of the best destinations you can go to.
Yeah.
Man City want to get rid of Aguero. It sounds crazy. I don't know why that. I hope that's BS because he's their best player of all time. But
yeah,
David Silva as well. But if that's the case, then there's not that enticement to play with the best friend anymore. And who's his second best friend, if not his first? Neymar.
Yeah.
Neymar's at PSG. Neymar won't give him his number 10 because Neymar earned it.
Yeah.
But Messi would have the chance to be able to compete still for Champions Leagues.
Yeah.
With a young, and he wouldn't even have to be their central figure. PSG have defenders. They have the number 10s, like role, not number.
Yep.
For him. And Di Maria. Oh my God! Why? It's obvious. It's PSG. Di Maria, Neymar, Mbappe on the other wing.
This would be problematic for Bayern Munich if this happens, because I've said this all year. Bayern Munich are less likely to lose the Champions League than the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga is much more winnable for the other teams. I don't think there's a chance in hell that anybody is taking down this Bayern team. And the reason is the teams around them don't have the enough materials to take them down. again, they can win a one-off. That can happen. But PSG are the only team that maybe can do it without Messi. If you add Messi into the situation, and Messi isn't what he was 5-6 years ago, even 3 years ago. But if in that situation with Pochettino, and they're probably going to go after Dele Alli because they're already chasing him in that midfield. It's just going to be hard. It's going to make it really difficult for Bayern to basically win 5 straight Champions Leagues. It will make it much more difficult, and Messi will have a better opportunity to do that. But I just think it might be really difficult for Messi to make that decision. It seemed more clearer in the summer that he was going to leave. Now it seemingly it seems unlikely that he returns, but it's not out of the question. But if he goes to PSG, oh my God, it would just be ridiculous.
I can't even imagine an attack like that. It's actually got me dreaming, and I'm not a PSG fan, but in terms of like superstar talent, that would be just another, oh my God. They're sponsored by Michael Jordan, Air Jordan. They play in one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the young talents. They're in the best position possible. And if anything, I'm not saying they could lure the lid or something, but they could form one of the most formidable squads of all time.
Yeah.
Of all time. You know how Real Madrid had Ramos and Ronaldo, best defender, best attacker, best striker.
Yeah. No, I
PSG could
think
be
they need some help. I think Dele Alli would be a good signing. I think there's a few other pieces that they probably need. They probably need another defender that's, and if this happens, it might free up Moise Kean to come to Roma. So let's make sure that happens. But yeah, they're loaded. They're absolutely loaded everywhere. They would be, at least, because Messi would add whole dimension even at his age.
I think we'll have to just wait and see what happens with that. But, I see you've got the Champions League hat. That season's about to come back. That part where it's,
Hopefully.
Real Madrid against Atalanta.
Hopefully for 2021, Roma will be in this competition and getting an opportunity to be annihilated by Bayern Munich like everybody else. So
that's what it is. You know how Gary Lineker once said, football is just a game where 22 men run around for 90 minutes and the Germans always win, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In the Champions League, how many games can you play before you face Bayern Munich?
You just have to pray that you can't draw them.
Exactly. Or that they get eliminated by Atletico Madrid or something, and then you happen to have Cristiano Ronaldo,
Yeah, the Champions League is just – and this is why the whole big picture Super League is the dumbest thing that could ever happen. Just because Bayern are dominant, obviously, but Atletico Madrid nearly beat them in the second leg of the group stage. They can be beaten on a one-off. Gladbach beat them, and they're not having a great season. Union Berlin got a point off of them, and they don't have half the quality or the budget. So anything can happen. Bayern will probably still win it, but on a one-off, anything can happen. So we'll just have to see what happens with Bayern. I still expect them to win it, but if Messi joins PSG next year, it will change things a little bit.
And I can't wait. And you say next year, it could be this summer, as soon as that.
Yeah.
That would just be the new MSN. You know how, like, the Brooklyn Nets have Harden, Kyrie, Durant?
Yeah.
The football equivalent would be Messi, Mbappe, Neymar.
Except they have bench pieces and other important pieces that can help them win a championship.
Oof. And that
didn't mean to take a swipe at Brooklyn, but I'm just saying.
But you know how you said Inter have that squad depth?
Yeah.
PSG, yes, they lost Thiago Silva, but they still have every other piece.
Yeah, Draxler will probably go. If they bring in Messi, Moise Kean is probably gone. Cardi will be gone. But for the most part, the core of their team will still be there. And then you have I didn't think about this. You have Navas in goal, who was the goalkeeper of all those Champions Leagues with Real Madrid. With that situation, with that goalkeeper who's won this competition, 4 or 5 times? that only intensifies everything. But they would be loaded. I still think it'd be a coin flip between themselves and Bayern. I think it'd be very close because I do think Bayern will get a center back this summer because they need one really bad. But I don't know, just in my head.
Speaking of that, do you think in that case, if Bayern are looking for a center back, was Lucas Hernandez a waste of money?
Yeah. It's not necessarily his fault. I just think his quality doesn't necessarily align with what Bayern have. And I don't know. He doesn't get a lot of opportunities either. So maybe it's a lack of, but they need somebody like De Ligt. I mean, they'll never get De Ligt. Juventus would sell Ronaldo before they sell De Ligt. But seriously though, he's 20. He's 21 years old. He's an opportunity to be the future captain of Juve and be at core of the backline that they had with Ciccolini and Bonucci. So I think that they need someone like that. Leipzig probably will not want to sell Upamecano to Bayern, but if there's a release clause, then maybe they can get someone like that. I don't know. I mean, they're not going to get Van Dijk, obviously, or Ruben Diaz for that matter. But you know what? Maybe Bayern could get that. Maybe Bayern could, as good as he is, maybe Bayern could overpay by a lot and get him or something like that. But there are going to be defenders out there that will be enticing to Bayern, and they'll end up figuring the situation out. They're too good not to rectify the situation. But again, I expect they'll buy a center back. But if they do not buy a center back and Messi goes to PSG, then it may be a little bit more difficult than you would think because Bayern loaded everywhere, but they just need more consistency in the back line. Neuer has conceded the most goals I think he's ever had in his career or in a season, something like that. I don't know. There was some stat that came out, but a large part of that is the defense keeps letting them down. So they need to fix that situation as soon as possible. But again, I still think they'll win the Champions League because no one else is even close to their level right now.
Honestly, I'm watching back right now the Mbappe dribble and then pass to Neymar against Galatasaray last year.
Oh, okay.
Stages where they won 5-0. Just do it it's a Real Madrid fan saying this, but Mbappe, destroy Barca for us,
Yeah.
That's all he needs to do, really. But that's really up to if he's got that intent.
Yeah.
It's he's just got to win the Champions League to solidify his legacy.
Yeah, he does.
And he's got time. Did Ronaldo win the Champions League at 21? Come on, man. I think we're being harsh on the kid. At the end of the day.
I think we're being harsh, but also fair, considering the problem is, and this is why we're ultimately being harsh. We've seen two. For this analogy, I'm going to throw all the defenders in there too. We've seen 4 players in his age group that have come up big in Champions League knockout moments or big defining games. And Mbappe hasn't done it outside of the group. And he just needs to perform in a big game. And he needs to win the Champions League because otherwise people are going to think of the 5 missed chances he had against Bayern. If he makes the Champions League again, all he needs to do is play extremely well. He doesn't need to score goals to erase what happened in Lisbon last summer. So whatever, we'll see what happens. I think we're being slightly harsh, but I think we're also being transparent and fair based on some of his, classmates in his age group having been able to perform. But again, I think he will perform. I just think it's going to take a little bit of time. But again, the longer he goes goalless in the knockout stage, the more difficult and the higher the pressure will rise. So I hope he's up for it.
I hope so too. I'd hate to see him finish his career with anything less than 4 Champions Leagues. Honestly, he's got it in him.
4?
4. He's gonna win 4 Champions Leagues. I think he's gonna win 4 Champions Leagues. They're not gonna be at PSG though. What's it called? When Cristiano Ronaldo I was watching clips the other day when he was playing his first Manchester derby. They're like, he's gonna win 5 Premier Leagues. It was funny. It's funny. He only won 3. He's the only. Then he won 2 La Ligas. So yeah, he won 5 league titles. Oh no, then he won 2 with Juventus. So he's won 7 league titles. But the point is, Ronaldo has not been that successful in the league.
Yeah.
The Champions League.
That's
away at time. You know? The second most successful player, the joint most successful Champions League player in the modern era. If you ignore Paco Viento of Real Madrid in the 50s, where he won 6.
I think Ronaldo's the best Champions League player ever.
Oh, I mean in terms of success, like winning it 5 times with Maldini.
Okay,
They both won it the most amount of times. And Mbappe's got to think to himself, I got what it takes to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe not as many goals. I mean, I think Ronaldo's record's going to stay there forever. This guy's athletic.
Probably.
Now that we're on the topic of Ronaldo, he went 26 games without scoring. But once he started, he never stopped.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of guy that doesn't ever want to stop. He's on 760, by the way.
Yeah.
And I remember when he broke the record. Sorry, when Messi and Ronaldo were both chasing the record with Raul at the top. It was 70.
Yeah. 70
is not. It's like nothing now. Ronaldo is close
That's
to
nothing.
30. Oh,
just give me a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's what it seems like nowadays. And the interesting thing about this is what I love about it. The highest scoring Champions League player is Ronaldo. The most the player with the most assists, Messi. And it's not particularly close on either end. Like I think Messi is like 50 clear of whoever's in second, and then you have Ronaldo who's like 20 clear of Messi. But again, he's been playing the Champions League longer. But no, Messi. I mean, Ronaldo in Champions League is just another. He's just a whole new level of greatness, and that's
this would actually blow your mind. But Cristiano Ronaldo is the top scorer. Top assister in Champions League history.
Is he really?
Mostly they're crosses. Whereas Messi, don't get me wrong, Messi's the better playmaker.
Oh, no, there's no question about who's the better.
He's very effective in terms of getting those statistics as well. And
all right, scratch it. I was wrong. I thought Messi was the all-time leading passer.
That's the thing. We like, you know how they say in basketball there's like the eye test. In football, we got it too, where it's like if you told me Messi was the top assister in the Champions League, I could believe it. If you told me, let's see, like a selfish player, it's not fair to call Ronaldo selfish. But if a player like Cristiano Ronaldo, you say is the top assister, it's more difficult.
Historically, no. Now you could argue that he is a little bit. I mean, he has 15 goals and 1 assist. 1. I'm just saying. I mean, he. I wouldn't call Ronaldo selfish. Actually, I just think he's a reluctant passer now. He's more concentrating on scoring his goals and passing like he did in the past. But he has moments, obviously, where he's selfish and things like that. But
I feel like Ronaldo is more of a door-to-door salesman for stats now. Where it's like he just wants to get his goals, go home, collect his paycheck.
Yeah.
Whereas Messi.
There's a game against Sassuolo where it was literally a 1-on-3. And there was and I think Aaron Ramsey was wide open. Like all he needed to do was hit him with a pass, and he would have walked it into the net. And he was onside too. And I watched that play. I'm like, dude, come on! Like he's literally right there. He wants to own every record, and I get that. But what I think is not talked about enough is 15 goals is a great stat. 15 goals, 1 assist is great. But is it really better than 8 goals and 8 assists? Because I'd rather have that stat line than 15 and 1. So I think as a fan of Ronaldo and someone who wants to see him at his best, and people may think that that's not the case because I speak the truth and they don't like the truth. But I would like to see him just not in terms of assisting, but in terms of looking for better options at some points. In the first game of the season, he looked for Kuleveski. He was like actively looking for him because he recognized his talent. I would love to see Ronaldo to kind of facilitate a little bit more than he does. Even though it doesn't seem to be necessary, I think the team would be better if he would do that. But again, he's Ronaldo. He's been great. You know, good. For, you know, he's been great this year. A little better than last year, but a little inconsistent at times, as you would see from a player of his age. But I don't know. That's all. I just think being a more just being the facilitator now and again would help Juventus be a more complete team, I guess.
Well, who knows who's going to win the Champions League this year? All I know is that Lazio are getting destroyed, and you with that Roma hat, you must be loving the sound of that.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. Taking stoppage time against a Parma team that can't score to beat them, I think was pretty funny too. I mean, I shouldn't talk because they destroyed us, but still.
Well, we'll have to definitely wait and see. But, you know, as always, Elliot, this has been a great week of the podcast. And
I think this might be our best one.
definitely. And that's the vibe we get leaving every single week.
Yeah.
It's like it gets more organized, but not to mention we get looser. Because, like, you know me, man. With sports journalism, it's different. It ain't as intense. It's more passion, how you feel, how you see it. Less objective, more of like your opinion, with a little bit of history-on-it. So it's like, we all know what happened. No one knows what will happen. But we can use our past knowledge to try to predict it. And at the end of the day, if we get it wrong, we're just humans at the end of the day. You know,
Absolutely.
Messi, Killian, but we're humans, you know? As always, guys, it's been a pleasure speaking to y'all. Take care, and check us out next week for the Futbul Apex podcast. Take care.